There's a meta serial killer out there. We need to find them before somebody else gets hurt.
Yo, what is going on, guys? Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on The Fly Season 8. And this will be my review and breakdown for The Fly Season 8 Episode 8, titled The Fire Next Time. This is obviously the first episode of graphic novel number 6, and right off the bat, Eric Wallace is not playing around with this graphic novel. He did say that it would be darker and kind of have this season 2 to 3-ish tone. And this genuinely felt like a season 2 episode of The Flash. You can tell that he lived up to what he said for this episode. And obviously it's going to gradually build up, so I'm really interested to see what's next. I really love this episode. It was very serious. Obviously it was incredibly personal to Barry, which really pushed Barry to pretty much do everything in his power to save Jacob Birch. It had a lot of emotion, and I just loved it. The mysterious build-up with the villain is also really intriguing. I am incredibly interested to see what's to come with this graphic novel. We did have, once again, this nice balance with every character having something to do, something that I really appreciated that they did with Armageddon. Allegra especially, who got this nice personal story as well. Yes, I will admit, with the side stories, I was kind of tuned out at times. I didn't really care too much, but at least they still gave her something to do. Jacob Birch had such a huge redemption, which was just crazy. So, who would have thought? Who would have thought? But yeah, Jacob Birch has fully been redeemed, I guess. He was great this episode. But overall, this was a great episode, and it was a perfect way to segue into this graphic novel, in my opinion. But yeah, for those who haven't seen the episode, then spoiler alert, since this is a review and breakdown after all. So I'll be going over some major spoilers, which you certainly wouldn't want to hear from me. So if you guys haven't seen the episode, go watch the episode and come back later for this breakdown. But for those who are staying, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Arrowverse content coming your way. Okay, so this episode kicks off at this bar with a random guy pretty much called Stan cleaning up. And he's essentially going around the place. He picks up a stool and suddenly his hand just gets burnt. It just automatically goes black. And we have this like black flame or like black smoke pretty much just attacking him and pretty much burns him into a crisp. We then cut to the morning where we have this very awkward interaction between Barry and Iris. I was so confused in regards to what was going on over here. I was like, wait, did I miss anything? But they do link this with another specific storyline, very personal to Barry, which I really liked. Obviously, this was the day, which we found out later on in the episode. This was the day of Henry Allen's birthday. So we do find out why Barry has been, acting pretty off in this episode, especially in this opening scene. Barry then arrives and he pretty much does some CSI work. I really love it when Barry does these CSI stuff. We have been getting it a lot recently, so it is something that I have really been appreciating, and he does go all out with this CSI stuff, which is something I do really like. He does, they had this nice balance in the episode where he does CSI stuff and he's the Flash as well, so that was something I really liked. But he does investigate the dead body, which Chester is very disturbed by, because after all, it's a corpse that's pretty much been burnt really badly. And it's just been, burnt within the body. Like there's nothing around which has been burnt. It's just the body. So that obviously leads to the assumption that obviously a metahuman is the one that caused this. We then find out that the person murdered did have a serious confrontation with someone the night before, in which Barry puts the pieces together. Okay, a fire meta, a recent convict which got released, possibly Jacob Birch, and Barry obviously shows a picture of Jacob Birch to an eyewitness. She pretty much confirms that yes, Jacob Birch is the one that pretty much threatened Stan. So yeah, Jacob Birch is essentially their number one suspect at this point. We then see Jacob Birch in the open, and he is now a security guard, and he's pretty much just talking to his son, and we can tell right off the bat that his son Harold and him do not seem to have the best relationship. But then we have the cops arriving to pretty much arrest Jacob Birch, since he is the suspect after all. And we have Jacob beginning to like activate his abilities because he does see his son being taken away from him, which is obviously something he doesn't like. But before Jacob is able to do anything, the Flash just runs in and stops Jacob. But this is when things get really serious and just really personal for Barry, where Jacob pretty much pleads to both the Flash and his son that he didn't do it. He's like, you have to believe me, I'm innocent. I didn't do it. And I really love the parallel with the young Barry flashbacks. It really highlights why this is so personal to Barry. It's just a perfect example to show like why this motivates him so much and why he really wants to help Jacob, because the exact same thing pretty much happened to him. So I did really love this parallel which they did. So we then have Barry seeking Cecile's help because he believes that Jacob Birch is actually innocent, but Cecile disagrees with Barry and thinks that there is just way too much evidence pointing towards the fact that Jacob Birch is the murderer. It's pretty much impossible for him not to be, considering the amount of evidence there is against him. So in terms of the evidence she's presented with, she does not agree with Barry. But Barry feels that something is not right about this, and he really wants to help Jacob because he does, after all, believe that he is innocent. So he asks Cecile to pretty much have a one-on-one with Jacob, maybe use her powers. And I find this very hypocritical of Cecile. But Cecile believes that there's essentially an ethical line that she would be crossing. But that is incredibly hypocritical, considering that she has read people's minds countless amounts of times on the show. So yeah, I don't know what was going on over there, but very hypocritical of Cecile. But we then have Cecile talking to Jacob Birch about the case, and he pretty much explains his side of the story. He does also explain how much he just doesn't want to be separated from his son because he loves his son after all and wants to take care of him. And he does also mention how terrible his mother is as well. But he does also mention the issue him and one of the murder victims had, that being Stan, at the bar, where he pretty much gave Jacob like half the money of what they originally agreed for. And obviously, it is understandable that you get really mad about that because he broke a deal and it's literally half the money they agreed for. So I do understand why Jacob Birch would have been furious about it. But after Barry and Cecile share their opposing opinions about the case in Barry's lab, Jacob pretty much breaks out of custody and confronts the eyewitness that said Jacob Birch is the murderer. And coincidentally, while Jacob Birch is there, the eyewitness ends up dead by this black flame as well. But then we have the Flash and Frost arriving to the crime scene, and Frost is not able to put out the burning body, which does obviously show that something weird's going on because she's not able to neutralize it. The body keeps burning. So just really develops the mystery with the black flame and just what's going on over here. So it does get me really intrigued. I have seen the promo for next episode and my god, it does look dark. So I'm really looking forward to that episode. But we then have Team Flash at Star Labs, in which Barry arrives and gathers evidence that the burn signatures of both murders are just way too exact for someone for abilities like Jacob Birch to just murder the same people, like murder people with the same like amount of heat generated. It must be someone else. And Team Flash disagree with Barry. They do also mention that there's just way too much evidence pointing towards the fact that Jacob Birch is the murderer, and Frost does also go like, you're asking us to believe in the impossible over here. And I did really like how Barry just shows how personal this thing happening to him is, where he does say, well, if anyone had believed in the impossible, then my father wouldn't have gone to prison. It does really like show and just encapsulates really well why this is just so personal to Barry. I did really like it. But yeah, Barry pretty much gets triggered. He just walks off and he says, I'm gonna do this with or without your help. So we then have him just further investigating. We do have him using the board again, and he does pretty much just go all out. He just really delves into this case, in which Joe gives Barry an incredible pep talk when he arrives. He does also mention that February the 1st is obviously Henry Allen's birthday. Hence, it does explain why Barry is being so emotionally, not only just, so attached to this case, but why he's been acting so off, especially in the morning, which I did obviously mention earlier on in the video. But Joe never misses with pep talks. Oh my god, this was such an incredible pep talk. It was just such a great scene. It was really, really beautiful. Whenever these two just share the screen, you just know it's just gonna slap. And this was certainly an amazing scene, which absolutely Jesse and Martin stole the show with. But we would then have Chester finding evidence that Jaco is innocent. And it's like, something along the lines of linked to nuclear fusion. And I will get more in depth with that later on in this video because it is linked with the ending scene and I will mention a couple of theories. But Jaco is after his son and we have CCPD pretty much going against him because he's about to ignite his abilities. He's getting furious and Jaco thinks that he's all alone. There's no hope for him anymore. So he just wants to just grab hold of his son and just go away. But Barry then talks down Jaco, which I didn't mind too much. It was really fitting considering, what was going on in this episode. And shows evidence to, obviously, CCPD to why he's innocent. Well, he doesn't directly show evidence, but he gives the flash drive. But Barry and Jaco work together to stop the earthquakes taking place due to Jaco's powers, which pretty much aligns with this emotion and just shows how angry he is, which is also this great power that I really liked. But it does obviously give Jaco the opportunity to pretty much become the hero. But Barry then phases through the ground and pretty much opens up water channels to neutralize the lava being generated. And obviously as Barry does that, we have Jaco Birch absorbing all of this heat and the fire. So Jaco Birch does pretty much become the hero and his name does get cleared. And he does have this great relationship with his son now, which it was really nice. I did really, really like it. But we then have this really, really wholesome and sweet scene where we have Barry, Joe, Iris just reminiscing about Henry Allen. They all share these great stories about him. And it's just these moments which I really, really love about the show. And it's just family environment of it. But we then have the episode ending with Barry finding out that there's pretty much a fire metahuman murder on the loose. And yeah, they're gonna have to find who it is. And obviously, from the other synopsises we have seen, it does refer to someone as the Black Flame. So we do know that whoever went up and killed the guy at the bar at the start with the black smoke, that is who the Black Flame is. It's actually a Black Flame. So someone is a fire-based metahuman which has Black Flame abilities. And I do have a theory over here that this could possibly be Ronnie Raymond, however not in the way that we think, because we do know that Ronnie Raymond is returning for episodes 11 and 12 of this season. So we do know that Ronnie is somewhat linked to the story in some way, and obviously they have mentioned nuclear fusion in the episode as well, so you can tell that it is linked together in some way, which does lead me to believe that Ronnie could possibly become the Black Flame. But obviously Ronnie's not the type of guy that's just gonna go around and kill people. There's obviously something bigger going on over here. So what I think is going on over here is that someone, we don't know who obviously, but we just know that we'll just call him Black Flame for the sake of this theory, but this someone most probably grabbed hold of the quantum splicer and pretty much somehow managed to merge him and Ronnie into one, pretty much forming this other version of Firestorm. So yes, although Ronnie is pretty much there, I think it's the Black Flame who's in control, but Ronnie is stuck in the head because it's the forming of these two which creates the Black Flame. That is my theory in regards to what is going on and how Ronnie could be the one technically or indirectly being behind it, but obviously it's gonna be another villain. It's going to be whoever's control. Obviously, if my theory is right, we do know that Eddie Thawne will be returning in this graphic novel as well for at least 3 episodes. So you could assume that there could be something related with that, but I don't think it has anything to do with it, if I'm being honest, considering fire abilities linking with Ronnie more than it does with Eddie. So I think that it has something to do with Ronnie. It could be either that whoever the main big bad is controlling Ronnie, maybe he has no control of what he's doing, but Ronnie could be the Black Flame. That could be possible, and then obviously we will find out that someone bigger is the main threat for the graphic novel. That is obviously possible, but I think the theory about, you know, this villain using the quantum splicer to pretty much take control of Ronnie and become Firestorm like that, I think it makes much more sense. And also considering the set photos we've seen with someone using the quantum splicer on them as well, I think it just makes too much sense. So I think that is what's going on over here, but obviously there could be something else going on. Maybe what's happening is that this villain managed to resurrect Eddie and Ronnie to pretty much destroy Team Flash from within, because we do know that Eddie's return will obviously cause a significant toll on Barry and Iris's relationship, and then the return of Ronnie would do the same for Caitlin. So he could be, you know, manipulating Eddie and Ronnie into pretty much turning them evil, and they end up doing something bad, or maybe they're under constant manipulation pretty much, which makes them threats to Team Flash and obviously the rest of Central City as well. That could be possible, but I think that I'm gonna lean along the lines of someone pretty much grabbed hold of the quantum splicer and merged him and Ronnie together, creating the Black Flame. I think that's what is going on over here, but I guess we will have to wait and see. We do also have the Central City citizen media storyline, which, as I said during the start of this video, I wasn't really too invested in. I do really appreciate that they gave Allegra something to do, and it was kind of personal to an extent, but I just really wasn't invested or interested in this storyline too much, so I will just wrap this up as quickly as possible. Allegra pretty much rejects a potential story from a writer, and the writer who got said no to goes to Iris and gets it approved anyway. And Allegra's not too happy about this because she's like, what's the point of me being the boss if I'm not allowed to have a say in this? But Iris, as the synopsis says, gave Allegra the opportunity to pretty much become a mentor. So we do have Allegra and this writer being assigned a story by Iris, and they're not getting along at all. They're pretty much interviewing this social media influencer as far as I remember, and it's not going well. But Allegra comes across an old friend of hers from Iron Heights and finds a perfect story of her own to write, due to her friend pretty much being undervalued amongst everyone due to her conviction. So it's hard for her to like get a job and all those sorts of stuff. So Allegra's like, okay, people need to hear the story. I think this story will be good. So Allegra essentially starts writing the story, and Iris is not too happy that Allegra worked on another assignment to the one she originally wanted Allegra to work on, but she still really liked the story as well, hence why she chose to publish it. But I do really like how they essentially gave this, like, you know, boss role to Iris, where she's more in control of things around the citizen. And I do really like how, once again, they gave Allegra something to do, and they did obviously get Iris involved in some way as well. So I did really appreciate those, but I wasn't too invested in those storylines that much. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Be sure to tell me in the comment section down below if you guys enjoyed the episode. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.